every Sunday. Side by side at the microphone, from the green light to the speed trap, Chris Switzer and Ray Garino calls them as they sees them, and you better believe them. Here! Relevant news, biased opinions, and outright bullshit regarding every aspect of automotive culture. Gasp at mechanical trickery never before revealed over FCC-regulated airwaves. Thrill to the explosive tension as Chris and Ray cuss each other down the track and barrel roll across the finish line, laughing at certain disaster as they shake hands for the devil. All that and much more this Sunday at high noon on the Motormouth Radio Hour. Call in and speak live with the Wizards of Speed and live feed, Chris Switzer and Ray Garino. Bring the whole family. Kids under 12 get in free. Every Sunday at noon on WHPC. Take the Long Island Expressway to the Meadowbrook Parkway and look for the sign saying no parking on the expressway and no express service on the parkway. Go right on Highway 24 to Garden City. $2 all-day parking includes pit pass. Sunday!
Forefathers went to trading post, 3 long days' journey to get powder and shot.
Today I drive my Pontiac to town in a few minutes to see the latest Paris gown.
Is this new Pontiac equipped with freewheeling? Naturally. Has it synchro silent second? Of course. Is the body by Fisher? Certainly. Well, apparently Pontiac has all the latest developments of automotive engineering. Absolutely. That is why Pontiac is today the chief of values.
You've got the chief of values. If you've tuned into Motormouth Radio, you right now... How do I got Chris on there? Why am I hearing Huey Lewis on the Adobe pot, Rob? All right, we got to do a little...
That is Nick Lowe.
I got Rob on the Adobe pot. I was just... All right, so listen, I'll run this myself for a second until Rob figures this out. You've tuned into Motormouth Radio, Long Island's only automotive talk show, with your hosts, Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer, starting off with a little old Pontiac fodder there, because we have a great guest today, Mr. Don Keefe, who I'm going to let him give his resume because it's longer, it's bigger than I could even imagine. So I still have Louis Lewis on there, Rob.
And not me.
No, he's on Adobe.
Oh, I am not there.
Okay, I think we figured this out.
Okay.
So
am I there?
A little bit today.
Check 1, 2.
We'll get this solved right now. Let's see.
Yes, am I there? Hello.
Chris is there. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Got a little in-studio mishap that we had to fix, but Rob was here, luckily, to take care of it. So
thank you, Rob.
Little crosstalk. So, and I see we have our guest, Don, with us. Don, are you alive and well over there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Good afternoon.
All right. Good afternoon to you, too. So, listen, why don't I'll let you introduce yourself, give the listeners and us your quick little bio so people know who you are and why you're here, and then we'll take it from there.
All right. Well, I started in the fast and furious world of automotive journalism back in 1988 when I started as an associate editor for CSK Publishing, who put out High Performance Pontiac and Muscle Cars and Vet Magazine and several other titles, and kind of learn the trade there. I'd gone to college for a journalism degree, and they hired me as a result of that. So I stayed there for just under 3 years and got laid off with a bunch of other people, and started my freelance career. Then became the editor of Pontiac Enthusiast magazine, which was a kind of a rival magazine, and I stayed with them for about 6 years, and then I got on the wrong side of a hostile takeover. So fortunately, I had a good relationship with the folks at High Performance Pontiac, so they asked me to come back, which I'm grateful.
We lost him.
And we froze. Well, to speak about High Performance Pontiac, that was a magazine that I actually had a subscription to and loved for many years. It was one of because if you're a Pontiac guy, as I spoke with Don during the week, and basically in the BOP world, the BOP, right?
Buick, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac.
We were kind of the bastard children of the car world. Everybody was, I'm talking back in the 70s, and I was really a GM guy, but a Chevy guy. So, and then I had a caddy and all, but so like I said, I was a GM guy. But you had your GM guys, you had your Ford guys, you had your you had your Mopar guys. Watch out for those Mopar guys.
Ooh, those guys, forget it.
And then you had the oddball guys on the fringe like you who kind of drove Studebaker.
Well, the funny thing about like you're saying, to be encapsulating a GM guy, yeah, if you were a Chevy guy, you knew a little bit about Pontiac, Oldsmobile, and Buick. You maybe didn't know a lot about Cadillac. But I was a Cadillac guy, and my knowledge trickled down from Cadillac to Oldsmobile, then to Buick, then Oldsmobile, then Pontiac, then Chevy. So I went backwards when it came down to knowledge of the vehicles. And that's what I always loved about being a car guy, because you can't help but learn about other cars while you are still supportive of your own brand.
Right. Well, the thing, me growing up, the thing I knew was the guys who owned the cars kind of were, into that brand, and that was it. They were
right.
There's a word in here somewhere that's not coming out, but and the guys who might have worked in a shop, they got to see more of the other stuff, so they kind of were more multicultural. Do you need something, Rob? Okay, Rob's just watching me. I thought he had a.
It's good jump in.
When Rob shows up, sometimes you got to pay attention because it could be trouble. You never know what's going on.
And there could be cannolis.
Mike 5, can I get it from over here?
There's a certain individual that we have spoken to in the past that I thought held the same.
Which one goes to Mike 5?
Theory as we did.
That's what I thought.
And he masters in certain Mopars.
Hey.
So we both know who he is. And when I said, what about the big Mopars? And he looked at me and said, well, no, I don't know the big Mopars. I know I know the mid-size Mopars. I was like, they're both basically the same. They're using the same parts. So how could you not know one from the other?
See what happened to our guest. That's
okay.
He froze for a second.
Right.
Since we're on Zoom, he froze for a second and then he disappeared. So maybe he's
it's on his end,
rebooting or something. Yeah, luckily it's on his end, not our end.
We hope Don is rebooting as we speak, and hopefully he will be joining us soon.
Right.
But yeah, that's the part, and that's what I was wanting to talk to Don about, as far as how did he migrate from first how he got into Pontiacs, and then how he migrated from Pontiacs to Chevys to something that's pretty unique, and that's Corvairs.
It's always interesting. Rob, when you were growing up, why don't you put a headset on so you can get the whole package going here? Let's go.
He could read lips.
When you were growing up, did you see, I know you weren't a car guy per se like we were, but did you see that guys gravitated to certain brands of cars? Like with music, guys like certain bands of certain genres, but did you see the guys like certain cars?
Yeah, it was slow pars. And Found on Road Dead, and I forgot what they called Chevys, but they didn't. There were some people that didn't like Chevy.
Right. So you did see that.
Yeah, it was about it's about 15, 16 when people start thinking about getting a car.
Sure. And it's the influence through the family. It's what what your parents drove, what your uncle drove. Because sometimes whole families were basically dedicated to a brand.
Not mine.
No, but somewhere.
Well, my mom had a Volkswagen for a long time, and then we sold it 2 years before, or a year before I really could have taken it. It was in good. It was okay shape, but we just sold it. And then she got a Chevy Malibu, and then the Malibu was good until we hit a pothole on the FDR Drive, and we leaked oil until Connecticut.
It was a Malibu. Yeah.
And then my dad had a Vista Cruiser.
Yeah, nice.
And he had a Ford Fairlane before that, and he drove a Carmen Ghia.
So he jumped around.
Yeah.
He was not brand specific. Yeah.
And my dad had the Concorde, and he had the Intrepid with the Chryslers. Concorde had those bad trannies, but
yes,
you know what? That was a great car.
They were great cars. And Chris, like you said, I had a Caddy. I was driving a 65 Caddy Coupe de Ville at the time, working in an auto parts store for two guys who were street racers. One of them, they were both Pontiac guys. And the one boss says, hey, you know what? He used to call me Navarro. After the movie star, Ray Navarro.
Oh.
Way before my time. I didn't know what this guy was talking about. He was a movie geek. I had no idea. I used to go like I'm not Spanish. So anyway, but he said, there comes a time, you've been here long enough, you want to work for me, you got to drive a Pontiac. He goes, I think you need to get, a Pontiac. I'm like, okay. He goes, yeah,
Tell
like GTO.
him to get lost.
I'm like, I'm like, all right, okay, I could do that. I could do that. And that's how I ended up getting the GTO that I still have today. I bought it in congruency with him. He bought a 67. My 65 was thrown in as an afterthought because it was not running and driving.
Right.
And that's how.
Hey, we found Don. And now we don't have volume. Don, you're on mute.
Yeah, no audio.
Don, you have no audio.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that.
What's the universal? Yeah, that's the universal sign for can't hear something.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll go like this.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. Yeah.
That's all. Can't hear.
Well, we'll see. You know, I wanted to show you something while Don is figuring out audio. We had typically always talked about something tongue in cheek years ago in this show about fixing a car and say, yeah, use mechanic in a can, right?
Right.
Well, guess what I just bought?
You bought mechanic in a bottle.
This is the stuff that Kenny and the other small engine guys were talking about that'll actually clear up a bad running carburetor on small engines and all. I found it in Walmart. And I also found the motor oil we were talking about.
Of course you found it in Walmart.
Yes.
No one else would sell it.
No. Oh,
there he is.
Good.
Yeah, all right. I'm sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
This is one of the perils of living in Florida, as power outages just happen at the most inopportune times. And wow, couldn't have picked that one any better, huh?
No.
Well, anyway,
so far this show has been a technological nightmare. So you're in with good company.
Well,
That's fine.
I'm all about tradition, you know.
Yeah.
So
you were saying.
Oh, well, getting back to that whole thing, I was editor of Smoke Signals for 9 years, the Pontiac Oaken Club magazine. And then I started Poncho Perfection magazine. And by this time, all the other Pontiac magazines were pretty much done for, at least the commercial ones were. So I did that for almost 10 years. And in the meantime, I also became the editor of the Corvair Society of America's magazine, Corsa Communique. And we also run the National Impala Association. So I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to, GM stuff and orphan makes and cars they don't make anymore. I'm kind of like the king of the orphan cars now. But it's kind of fun. I enjoy it.
Well,
it's funny, Don. No, go ahead.
The thing that got us to talk to Don now is this.
Yes.
Eisencheck sent me this. This is Don's latest book, this Pontiac Performance from 60 to 1974. This book could be 3 times the size because of the stuff that's in there. But phenomenal.
And it was the thing. The thing was, it was I had a page count to do, and it was part of a series. And a lot of times when you're dealing with books, they're usually part of a series, and there's formatting things that you have to keep in mind when you're putting it together and all that stuff. I suppose I could have made it 300 or more pages, but the thing was, I also like to be as concise and as tight a writer as I can be. So the page count actually worked out pretty nicely. And I gotta hand it to Old Wes. That dude did me a solid in that he was able to come up with over 100 photos that had never been published before, stuff from the 60s and 70s. And I was just astounded. In the meantime, I had been working on my own to find vintage photography, and that worked out real well. I managed to meet up and connect with some former NHRA stock and super stock racers, people like Truman Fields, Charlene Wood, some others, and it was really a fun project. I think I had a tremendous amount of fun doing this book. But it took longer than we wanted, of course. At the time I was doing 3 magazines and writing this book. Yeah. And so it was one of those deals where, it turned my life upside down, to be honest.
Don, just flipping through, and there's a lot of great stuff, but on page 111, there's a photo here that's near and dear to our heart.
It's the 66 or 67? 67.
That's a Royal Pontiac. Yes, that's a 67 GTO.
Royal Bobcat.
This is Matry Schorr. This is in
front of Marty.
Uncle Marty.
Marty's a good friend.
I love Matry Schorr.
That's a car that's in front of his house. in the town that he and I both lived in. We lived like less than, well, the town was a mile square, so we lived less than a mile apart. And I didn't know it. I wasn't driving at the time that he took that picture, but yeah. So you got some really, really good stuff in here, which is
yeah. I was very. Marty was a wonderful help with all that, and Marty is somebody who's been a mentor to me. I don't know how aware of that he really was, but he really, in my early days, he would get us into various press conferences with Buick engineers and that sort of thing. And he always kind of had his eye out to take care of us young journalists at CSK, and I've kept in touch with him all these years, and we're Facebook buddies now. But the last time I ran into him personally was at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals, and we were talking about our careers and how things have been going. We're sitting at the bar talking, and of course I made him autograph like every shred of anything that he ever wrote. And he's like, "You're not putting these on eBay, are you?" I'm like, "No. This is for me. This is for me."
I did the same thing. I sent him stuff, and he autographed it, sent it back. It was kind of funny the way we met Marty. One of the guys who worked for him, Joe Oldham, another great writer. Joe was coming out with Confessions of a Muscle Car Test Driver, and I wanted to get him on the show. So I somehow, I didn't have contact for Marty. For Joe, I ended up talking to Marty because Marty was coming out with his motion performance book at the same time. And Marty said to me, he says, "You know what?" He says, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "My motion book isn't done yet. It's almost ready to go to the publisher." He says, "I want you to have Joe Oldham on first." Marty is sly as a fox. He was probably thinking, let's see how they handle Joe, and then I'll decide if I want to talk to him.
Yeah.
So we had Joe Oldham on, and oh my word, what a fantastic show. Joe became a very good friend of the show.
That guy was just oozing with personality. He was very demonstrative in his speech patterns, and just a lot of fun to converse with. And he was he was there when all that craziness was on in the 60s, and he a few Red Cars magazine or any of those back in the day. I mean, that was the East Coast counterpart to everything that was going on the West Coast. So as an Easterner, I always gravitated towards those magazines because they were a little grittier, a little more outlaw. I always loved that mindset.
I'll tell you something right now, and I bring this up on the show almost every week. I'm reading Cars magazines from the 60s. I have them in the bathroom, and I have like stacks of them, and I'm going through them, finding old articles and talking about it. Another one that I found just recently is this one. This is an oddball.
Wow.
This was an East Coast publication, and they're talking about...
There was actually a magazine called Engines.
They're talking about the 1963 engines. And I got to be careful with this but Don, I thought of you after our conversation because look what they did a whole article on the
Pontiac 421 performance goodies.
Well,
that's a 62 Catalina on the cover there.
Magazines like that, they're gold. They are gold.
That's hysterical. They really
are. Yeah. And the best part about those magazines, it's not somebody going back, and trying to rehash the stuff. As an automotive historian, I always like to go to the original sources, and, people who were there at the time, the old magazines, the old books, all that stuff, because that gives you much more of a firsthand account of what was going on rather than someone trying to interpret what's going on 50 years after the fact.
So, Don, what did you use? Did you use a lot of those magazines to compile for research for this book, or did you?
Yeah, I had and have still. I've got a gigantic magazine collection, but I had a magazine collection. When we moved to Florida, I donated about 90% of it to the Historical Vehicle Association in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it took a 12-foot box truck to move all of it.
Holy smokes!
It was insane. I mean, I was a pretty rabid collector for since I was about 8 or 9 years old. So that was a 40-plus year collection of stuff, and I had complete volumes of many magazines, a lot of books, sales literature, toys, promos, you name it, I had it. And I had moved it several times, and I was like, we were moving into a smaller place, and I was just like, I can't do this again. So I donated the stuff, and that was the beginning of the HVA's library, and it's turning into one of the largest automotive repositories of that sort of material. So it's, if you're ever in Allentown, for whatever reason, it's worth the trip. It's an amazing.
Maybe I should start making donations, because I got a ton of stuff.
Yeah, you do too. Yeah. No, it's funny because one of the few magazines that I've actually saved was Collectible Automobile, and I was trying to figure out. I used to read you, and because I wasn't. I mean, I'm a Pontiac guy, but I never bought the Pontiac books or the magazines. But your name was just resonating in my head when Ray told me we were going to interview you, and I'm like, where have I? And I went Collectible Automobile. Holy smokes, yes.
Yeah.
And
I got to tell you, having my name on the masthead of Collectible Automobile alongside people like Carl Ludvigsen is really one of the high points of my career, and I could say that without reservation.
I believe
I've been writing for them since 1999, and they're wonderful people to work with. I've got nothing but praise and good things to say about them, and it's a wonderful magazine, and it's very consistent, and the power just came back on. So I'm just going to plug my phone in so it doesn't go dead, and we'll just keep doing it this way.
So Don, let me ask you, besides the magazine part of it, because you may have to write about things that you don't want to write about, what gravitated you towards Pontiacs in particular?
My father. Simple as that. My father was a parts manager and warranty administrator for most of the Pontiac dealerships in Rochester at various times. When I was born, he was working for Schoen Pontiac, and obviously that's long gone. But I ended up buying a house about a block from there. So it was funny, we would drive by there, and it was really interesting. It's a body shop now, but my dad was very, very well known around the area as, like, if you're restoring a GTO, he's the guy that's going to find the parts for you. And so it was something. One day when I was about 4.5 years old, he came home with a Carousel Red 69 400 Firebird and had a parchment top and interior, 4-speed, hood tack, wood wheel. I mean, the works. That car ruined me for life. That was it. That was it. Yeah. So later on, I gravitated towards the full-size cars, and my first car was a '66 Bonneville convertible, and I just like the big girls. That's all there is to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't blame you.
That's actually on my list now. Me and friends, we still talk about. I have another car in me. I'm not done yet, and I keep thinking another big car. Like a Bonneville or a Cat, something like that. Bucket seats and a 4-speed. I said, I'd like to do it the right way. Something with 421 or 428. And that'd be a cool car.
The best dashboard in the business. The best dashboard. I think those Pontiacs, those mid-'60s Pontiacs, had the best interiors.
I agree.
My dear friend Jeff Dennison is a retired designer from General Motors, and we talk about that sort of thing all the time. And he and I both are of the opinion that the 66 full-size Pontiacs, especially the Grand Prix and Bonnevilles, had absolutely the best dashes ever, with the wood grain and the angled, squared off bezels for the clock and the
cookie cutters.
Yes. I mean, that it was just so good. And the heater controls that mimic the radio rather. I mean, it was just awesome stuff. Yeah, they just really knew what they were doing back then. And a gentleman by the name of Fedele Bianco was the designer.
Okay.
Was the designer?
Yeah, Don, I think the power went out again.
Italian. Well, it's probably buffering. It's probably buffering in his end.
It's buffering. Yes.
But yeah, if you have a Pontiac question or want to talk about the magazine business, you can talk to Don by calling us at 516-572-7440. Are we using a text number this week, Chris?
Yes, we are. We're back to our regular text. It's 203-670-4127. We'll get you right here on the desk with me at Motor Mouth Radio. Not a problem. Yes, and as hopefully Don can work out his technical issues and we can get back to him. But we're still on the air here, still talking Pontiacs.
People can find us at Motor Mouth Radio on X and on Facebook, and Motor Mouth real underscore Motormouth Radio on Instagram, and of course the two YouTube channels, Motormouth Radio and Motormouth Video, where this show will be in just a couple hours, a little later this afternoon. You can watch this for yourself.
And we got Don back.
All right, didn't even get a chance to miss me. Wow, how about that? I don't know what's going on here. It's just craziness.
You know what
I'm on data, so hopefully the 5G lines won't be going down during the course of this.
We do have a call, so let's go to the phones and say hi, caller. You're on with the Motor Mouths and Don Keefe.
Hello, Don, Ray.
What's up, John?
Hey, John.
Ray, I just wanted to say thank you for the oil scavenging at Walmart.
Yeah. Well, listen, my wife dragged me out. We're out shopping. I go to the small engine area by lawnmowers, and I found all that stuff. So, yeah, of course I want to share it. You're welcome.
Yeah, I wish I had Walmart's not that far. The local auto parts store is 5 minutes away. Yeah, Walmart, I'm going to lose an hour.
Yeah.
And, how much oil do you keep in stock?
No, you get it as you need it. So, John, I don't think you ever had a Pontiac, did you?
Yes.
You did? What was it?
I got as a dowry when I inherited my wife.
Oh.
She had a Pontiac Ventura.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
The small one or the big one?
It was a slant six.
Small one.
Wasn't a slant six. It was a six. It was a stone six. Yeah. But, okay. Yeah.
And I blew a hole through a piston in January on Ocean Parkway going into work at the college.
Oh, that's a lot of fun.
And I drove it all the way into the college, parked it, left it sit there all day, and went out and started it up, and it fired up. It wasn't running great.
No.
And I just had it tuned up at a local shop and took it to the local shop. I drove it straight there when I left work. They were still open. And they were busy, and the guy said, yeah, just park it over there, have a beer. And so he ends up going, yeah, I'll just look at it outside. And it was cold as a witch's. And he pops the hood open, and he goes, start it up. I cranked it, and all I heard was boom. And I saw him running and covering his head.
That was the last hurrah.
They'll never run right till you get the piston out of the oil pan, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you got to clean out those little parts out of the screen.
The piston was still had a hole in it.
Yeah.
But all the gas on an hour drive home went down into the pan.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There was enough fumes after it sat. It shot the dipstick, which ricocheted off the hood and went into another repair shop across the street.
Nice.
Hey, hate when you shoot your dipstick. That's never good.
That's never good.
Yeah.
All right, John.
Fun.
Thanks for the story. We're going to get back to talking with Don about all things Pontiac, high performance.
I also had another Pontiac. I had a G6 convertible.
That's a nice car, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cool car.
But
Very
it's
good.
A little newer than 74.
Yeah. All righty, John.
Oh, my God. When I saw the top on that go up and down, they should have had, like, opera music playing.
Yeah.
That was too many parts.
Yeah. No, very nice. All right, John. Well, thanks for the info, and we will we'll talk soon, and I'll send you more stuff from Walmart as I find it.
Oh, by the way, I listened to Kenny's show. It was great.
Very good.
Yeah. Yes. All right, guys. Great day.
Okay, John. Thanks.
Be safe.
Thanks.
So long. All right, Don. We are back with after a little Pontiac interlude. Where did we leave off?
Oh, we're just trying to figure out delving from Pontiacs. How did you get into Impalas and then something as
Corvairs? Yeah.
as finite as Corvairs?
kind of an interesting thing. Apparently, there is quite a bit of overlap with enthusiasts. I didn't realize this at the time, but a lot of full-size Chevy guys are also full-size Pontiac guys. And one day I was at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals in Chicago, and a gentleman by the name of Jody Anderson walked up to me. He said, "Hey, I am the president of the National Impala Association, and I see what you're doing with smoke signals, and I really like it. Would you like to come on board as the art director for Impala News?" I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds like fun, you know." So I started doing that, and before you know it, I'm the president, you know. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, there was another guy, a good friend of mine, Mike Berry, became the president afterwards, and then I sort of came with the deal. So I continued to do art direction for him, and then he decided he wanted to leave, so or just not be president anymore. So I took over from there. And as far as the Corvair, like I said, there's overlap between Corvair owners and transaxle Tempest owners. And again, yeah, there were some POCI Little Indians chapter members who were also active in the Corvair Club. And when they found out that I was no longer editor of Smoke Signals, they asked me, "Hey, if your dance card's not full, would you be interested in taking over this Corvair magazine?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds like fun." So, and it's been a wonderful time. I've been doing it since 2018. And a nice bunch of folks to work with, sort of a little different demographic than I'm normally used to, but in terms of a lot of the people who are members of the Corvair Society are guys who were engineering students in the 60s and 70s who were intrigued with the technology. And so, you know, when an article comes to me from the Corvair, you know, a Corvair membership, it's usually really, really well done, and they're very methodical and very engineering-like. Right. And so getting articles for that magazine has never been a problem, because there's always been a treasure trove of information, technical stuff, historical stuff, car features. And you'd think that, you know, they haven't built a Corvair in 57 years. You'd think it would be tough to find new material, but it's not been a problem. And I credit the membership, of course, for that happy phenomenon.
You know,
Right,
Don, well, go on, Chris.
No, I was just going to say, Corvair being a rear-engine car, Pontiac, the early Le Manses before '64, had the transaxle in the back,
exactly,
and the engine in the front, and they had that torque
drive,
with
the rope drive,
with the rope drive. So they had familiar parts.
Well, the thing was, it was a lot more than that. If you pop the hood of a Corvair and you pop the hood of a transaxle Tempest, the inner fenders look almost identical. The floor pan is pretty much the same, and if you look at underneath the transaxle Tempest, you can see that the trunk floor is raised. That's because that's what the Corvair required.
Right.
And so that's, there's a lot of really interesting little details about that. And the Tempest Torque Automatic was just a beefed up version of the Corvair Power Glide. And so there's some really interesting technology was going on back then. You know, General Motors was a little more innovative and willing to take more risks than today. And I'd love to see a Corvair come back to the market. That would just be the coolest thing, you know. It'll never happen, of course, but I think that, you know, an inexpensive, sporty rear engine, you know, vehicle, you know, about the size of maybe a Porsche Cayman, I think it would be fantastic. It'd be a great compliment as a junior Corvette, you know.
I was going to say, it encompasses all the words you used except one, which was, you know, affordable. And
affordable, well, relatively speaking,
I was going to say, did you go out and buy an early 911? There you go.
Well, there was this little
other things.
What about that little GM Endeavor called a Fiero? What happened to that?
Yeah. I you know, those are very much maligned, but I'll tell you, I love them. They're great little cars. They're very, very interesting technology,
you know,
and a lot.
I was thrilled one night when I went to a local cruise night. I saw a Corvair. It was sitting kind of high. I'm like, it's got big wheels on it, with a big block Chevy stuck in the thing. Like, now there's a guy who knows how to build a car. But I want to say, we got a message in from our cloud here. One of the guys, Cliff, wants to know. He wants to know if there's ever been an article about why the 8-lug rim was introduced and why it ended.
Oh,
Yes. It's
great question.
interesting. Yes, it is a great question. And what General Motors Pontiac came up with, they were looking for ways to improve braking performance without having to kind of reinvent the wheel, no pun intended. And so what they did is they came up with this idea of an iron liner that was cast around this, or the ring was set, and the aluminum, the finned aluminum drum was sort of cast around it, and so that what that did is it dissipated heat tremendously, especially with those big fins, and it worked almost as well as disc brakes. I had a '66 Grand Prix with the 8-lug wheels, and there was no brake fade at all with that car. That thing weighed like 4,600 pounds, and so what happened was. Kelsey Hayes built those, and for Pontiac exclusively from 1960 to 1968. And the march of technology sort of moved on, and disc brakes, sort of took over. And it obviously disc brakes are gonna do a better job overall. But as far as style, you just can't beat the look of those 8-lug wheels.
No,
they're just so cool.
Well, You know what? The other thing we can't overlook is the bottom of the hour. We need to take our break. We went a couple of minutes late, but we'll take care of that now. I need to say that as I look at the WHPC weather window, our weather is powered by Pantano's Gourmet with locations in Hewlett and Uniondale. Great bagels, as all the guys from Florida know that New York has some really good bagels. But I hear there's some places coming down south too, which is good.
They have to bring their own water, though.
Yeah, we're in cloudiness. We're in cloudiness, a little bit of fog in the 40s today. Later tonight, we're supposed to temperature drop a little, and we're supposed to get some rain. It'll be heavy rain through tomorrow, also in the 40s. And then by Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to be clearing. It'll be nice. So that's good. And I need to mention that we have an app contest here. If you download and update your WHPC app, which you can find, I'll tell you where you can find it, you can enter to win a $200 gift card to Uncle Bacala's Italian Seafood and More, which is my favorite Italian place that's local to here. It's great. They're on Jericho Turnpike in Garden City Park. Download the app on your WHPC app now from the Google Play or Apple Store. And thank you for listening to WHPC 90.3. Chris, do we have an honor group of the hour to share with Don?
Of course we do. This bottom of the hour, we always like to pick out someone that we tip our hats to every week. And this week, the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour, those car guys that start a quick automotive repair at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and somehow find themselves finishing it under the work light at 10 o'clock at night. You begin the day full of optimism. This will only take an hour. Fast forward, few broken bolts, a parts store run, and one mysterious extra bracket later, and now you're out there in the dark with a flashlight in your mouth and grease up to your elbows. The neighbors are asleep, the crickets are chirping, it's getting colder, and you're tightening the last bolt thinking, well, I definitely finished this thing tonight. So we salute your determination, and when that car project turns from the day into the night, you are part of the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour this week.
That's how I grew up.
Yeah, I know.
That's how I grew up.
Yeah,
we all did.
Now I go to bed. All right, so listen, we're going to take our break. We just got a few bits to take care of. It'll just be a couple of seconds here. Don, hang with us, and we'll be back with more of Don Keefe on Motormouth Radio, 90.3 WHPC. Keep it where you got it. Pontiac.
At Wide Track Town, they've got the Pontiac Tigers, GTO and Pontiac Le Mans. These pussycats are tame when you own one, but if you say go sick 'em, your tiger understands.
I love this show so much. I've always described Motormouth Radio in terms of luxury, value, reliability. People are like, what's a radio show that's luxurious, valuable, and reliable? I'm like, Sunday afternoons on WHPC 90.3 FM. That's the one.
Oh, that's a promo bit. I'm going to isolate that today.
Did I just do a promo?
You did.
I love it.
This show on 90.3 WHPC is brought to you by CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision, with 2 locations in Limerick and Oceanside, who remind you that New York state law says you always have the right to choose which shop will fix your car. CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision offers a full range of services: 24-hour towing between Montauk and Manhattan, shuttle service, and they can help you with a rental car arrangement if needed. All repairs include the CarStar lifetime nationwide warranty, ensuring that the experts at Celebrity Chase Collision are always on your side.
Y sí, hablamos español.
More information is available at 516-593-0920 or online at celebritychasecollision.com.
Hey, you, get over here. Every Sunday, 12 to 1, you are going to tune in to hear the Motor Mouths, my friends Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer. 90.3 FM, WHPC. You might learn something.
For 1965.
An Asian proverb says, "He who rides tiger often winds up inside one." American version.
Yes, he who rides tiger often winds up inside one. I'm going to be inside of mine soon because the weather's getting nice. Can't wait. So we're back. Ray Guarino, Chris Switzer. We're here with Don Keefe, author and car guy extraordinaire. Don, where should we pick up? Let's, Cliff had another question about the Hurst wheels and why they were not as widespread and lived on as much as people wanted them to. And I told him it was because they were 2-piece wheels and it was a safety issue. Is that correct?
That's part of it. The 2-piece wheel, the cost, and also the fact that they added so much to the unsprung weight that General Motors would not validate them for production. So they became kind of an aftermarket deal, and they did slow the cars down. They look great, but they were so heavy, and it was there's nothing worse than unsprung rotating weight when it comes to performance. Right. So that's the long and short of it. That's what you always try to reduce. But yeah, those and Tom McCann shoes. Boy, if you get a pair of those,
Don, I have a question. Can you talk a little bit about the Ram Air 5?
Oh, baby.
Oh, I'll tell you, I almost had to go into a 12-step program to get off of that addiction. Let me tell you. Yeah.
I mean, we know about Ram Air 4, but
Ram Air 4s are great. Ram Air 5 was. Yeah, it was like chasing the dragon. It really was. I started my obsession with them shortly after joining the ranks at High Performance Pontiac. I was asked to rewrite an article that the late great Roger Huntington had put together a few years before, and I did actually get to talk to him on the phone before he passed away. But I rewrote the article and I fell down the rabbit hole of those gigantic ports, let me tell you. And I started collecting parts. And I bought a set of I got 3-cylinder heads from a racer in Maryland, tunnel ram intake manifolds. I bought 303 short deck short block from Purely PMD out in New Mexico. I also had an NOS 303 Ram Air 5 intake manifold. So I had all this stuff. And, and I had a tremendous amount of money involved in it. And the thing was, I wasn't making a whole lot of money as a journalist at CSK Publishing. And after a while, it got to a point where the stuff kind of owned me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was able to make a very sizable profit off of selling that stuff. So all in all, it worked out pretty well. But I'll tell you, it was crazy. The Ram Air 5s were sort of an offshoot of the Ford Tunnel Port. George DeLorean, who is the younger brother of John DeLorean, had a factory deal with Mercury after the GM racing ban. And he showed his brother, long story short, these things. He said, these the FE Fords and the Pontiac V8s are pretty similar in terms of overall dimensions and stuff. We could really make a Pontiac deal work. And so they did, and it was almost approved for production. The problem was that they were too big. The ports were too big, and if you had an engine like 500 cubic inches, they would have worked great. But the problem is on a 400 cubic inch engine, they needed to do a little more in the way of port development in order to make it work. And I've, talked with and done a lot of articles about Raymer 5 engine builds. And essentially all that needed to be done was to get some epoxy and flatten out the floor with 15 cc's of epoxy. And that's all it took. And it changed everything. So they were really close. They were really close to having something. And it would have been, 500 plus horsepower street engine. And it would have rewritten history. There's no question, but it didn't happen.
Don, I have to tell you, having been to Pontiacs for a long time and modifying them, recently the build that I have now has a 400. Well, now it's a 406. It's 30 over. But with modern components being pistons and rods, short skirt, hyperprotective coated pistons, rods that look like Ed Pink rods that were unobtainium back in the day. This engine now performs more like a small block. It actually revs faster and freer. It's unbelievable. If we only had that technology back then, we do have the technology, the phone. We have another call. So let's go back and say hi, Cole. You're on to Motor Mouths and Don Keefe.
Good morning, gentlemen. Chris, Ray, and Don.
Hey, Bob.
Robert.
Hey, guys.
Good afternoon.
So, Don, I have a quick question for you. I think you kind of answered the spec on that last reply on the 5. I wanted to ask about the dual quad setup you see in the Z28. So what did Pontiac offer? And then the second, like in the small block 302 Chevys, what did Pontiac offer? And my second question for you, Don, I'm not going to keep you, but we have you on the radio at home, was what was the one vehicle, I ask all the guests, what was the one performance car that got away from you?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh, well, let's see. Well, I guess I'll answer that first. I think it would have had to have been a 1970 Judge. I was working at a Ford dealership, and one of the mechanics had one, and it was a nice car, and we were getting ready to make the deal to purchase the car, and he totaled it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a front end total. Wow. Now the thing was, today, we're talking about early '90s, but today that car probably would have been easily fixable. Sure. But that's the one got. It was a Raymer 3 4-speed. It was white with a red interior. It was a pretty cool car. Oh, that one definitely got away.
You don't see many white Judges. That was probably the least produced car, I would imagine, right?
It was sharp. And with the red interior, it was sharp. It was a nice car.
That's a real cuisine car. Come on, Don. It's,
Yeah.
we get a cannoli, a little bit of, So.
And about the intake manifolds, Pontiac did cast up some prototype cross ram intake manifolds for the 303, both in Raymer 4 and Raymer 5 configurations. Now, these were short deck intake manifolds. So if you were going to run them on a standard deck Pontiac, you would have to put spacers in. They're probably close to, trying to think, I had a set made up. I think they were just like 3/4 of an inch thick or so. But the thing was, those were prototypes. I don't think they made more than maybe a half dozen at the most. And there were two very different designs too. The first one, the one for the Ram Air 4s, actually looked kind of similar in configuration to the 302 Chevy DZ Cross Ram, but the Ram Air 5 had a removable top. So you could put different carburation combinations on, depending on what plate was on it. So I think they were using that, and they came to the realization that it was just too much, sort of like beer funnel in this poor little 5-liter engine, So it just it didn't work. Now it was funny. Years later, I did an engine simulation on a 303 Pontiac, and if it was allowed to spin to 14,000 RPM, I would have made over 850 horsepower. Wow. But that was, that's the difference between theory and reality.
Sure.
But, if you're spinning something that fast, you're moving a tremendous amount of air. Oh, yeah. And that means a lot of power.
Sure.
But obviously there isn't a valve train, or oiling system, related to a Pontiac that's going to handle that kind of
right.
RPM level.
Right. Well, there you go, Bob. That's
great guest,
excellent.
great program. Thanks, guys.
And great questions.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bob. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Don.
Thanks, Bob.
All right. Bye, Bob. Yeah, I tell you, I just got to rub this in a friend's face a little while ago, because back in the day, I was buying a lot of Pontiac, a lot of GTO parts from him and his brother. And one of the things he had was an intake manifold. It was aluminum. I'm like, maybe I could use another manifold. And he says, well, this goes with it. He had a Holly 780 on it. And then he gave me this cast iron piece that went with it. I'm like, what's that? Well, that's the exhaust. I'm like, I never saw that before. Now, this is back in like 1978. So I gave him $75 for it. And I ran it on my car as a street manifold for many, many years, not really knowing what it was. And then I found out what it was. I'm like, what? Now I beat blasted it, cleaned it up. I'm like, this is worth some money. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah, that's...
Yes. In 1969 and 70 Raymer 4s, and 1971 and 72 455 HOs, they used a very similar intake manifold system. And it was an aluminum two-plane high-rise intake manifold that was sort of an improved version of the cast iron manifold, but it had a separate cast iron crossover that could be removed, quote unquote, during warm weather conditions. And so what it did is it made that intake manifold emissions compliant, because they knew the emissions coming in, and so that was the reasoning behind it. So the crossovers a lot of times would just get lost or tossed in the trash or whatever. So they're difficult to find originals. There you go. There it is.
That's how it's.
So that's a nice piece you got right there.
Yeah,
it's a great manifold.
It is, and it ran well. I had a nice cam in it. I used to use I think it was I had a Nunzi's cam in the car for a long time, which he told me, you're never taking that out. A Nunzi's cam, everything else is going to make you go slower. He said that on this show.
He did.
But anyway, so yeah. Then
he was probably right.
he probably was, yeah. So actually now we progressed to fuel injection, so that's the way to go these days. But speak if you can a little bit, because we're going to be getting bitten by the clock. Tell us about your your Tempest, the car that you beautifully restored.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that.
Actually, I bought the car already done. I got to give credit where credit is due. The car was originally built in the late 80s and early 90s by a gentleman by the name of George Knevelbard, and he was and still is. He lives in Orlando now. He's in his early 80s. Super nice guy. And he, as a teenager, lived near Mickey Thompson's shop, so he hung out there quite a bit, and he bought parts from him, this sort of thing. Well, he saw those original cars being built up, the original Super Duty cars, and he vividly remembered the 62 Tempest AFX car that they built, that Mickey Thompson built. So that car was raced by Hayden Proffitt and won the Winter Nationals. Later on, Hayden Proffitt left and opened his own shop, and then Lloyd Cox ran it as an automatic. Now, this is a 421 Super Duty powered vehicle. Well, after the rules changes and this and that, the car was sold and it was converted into an altered wheelbase funny car. Well, George tracked down the original car, which was a roller, but I guess it was in very rough shape. And he decided that it would be easier to a replica than try to restore the original. So we found a nice rust-free car in Los Angeles. And previous to Mickey Thompson's untimely demise, he had purchased a tremendous amount of Pontiac engine parts from him after GM got out of racing. So he had enough parts to build several Super Duty engines, which he did. And so he built this car, and he I don't know if you remember, but it was in Hot Rod Magazine. The build of that car was in Hot Rod Magazine in 1962. I think it was the October issue. And what he did is he went to Peterson Photographic and bought all the photos from that shoot, because there was over 100 shots and most of them didn't get published. So he had an absolutely fantastic record to replicate the car. and he did an absolutely spectacular job. I had a period correct, date coded 421 Super Duty with the correct intake manifold. It was the Thompson version of the Super Duty intake manifold. He remade the headers. He did the whole thing. He had a Borg Warner T85 3-speed. Had a 57 Pontiac rear end with 430 gears. I saw the car back in 2012 at the POCI convention. I just fell in love with it. And I years later, George sold the car, and it was in Northern California. And we did an article in Pontiac Enthusiast about a couple of his cars, actually 2 articles. And he called me up. He said, "Hey, can I get some back issues of the magazine?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we worked that out. And I said, "I'm a big fan of yours." I said, and I told him the story about the 421 Super Duty Tempest. And he said, "Well, is this car for sale?" He said the car was for sale. And I said, "Well, he said, are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah." But at the time, I was in the process of buying a house, the house that we live in now. This was in 2022, and I said, "Well, look, I'd love to buy the car. Look, I'm not going to do anything to screw up this deal, So once we close on the house, we'll see how things look." So yeah, we came out of it, and I was like, "Well, I could do it." So I worked out the deal with the owner, who was a friend of George's, and so I called this guy Mike, and we worked out a deal over the phone. And 10 days later, the car was sitting in my driveway, and it was funny. The title came to me on April 21st, 421. So that was kind of cool. So it was always a bucket list thing for me to own a real 421 Super Duty. I didn't really need an original car, but I wanted a real 421 Super Duty.
Did you dare blast that thing down to Florida highways and byways? I mean, did you take it out for a romp or what?
I drove it. I don't think I put 100 miles on the car the entire time I owned it, because it was a monster to drive.
Right. Really?
It was. Now, I'm a pretty good sized guy. I'm 6'2". I'm over 250 pounds. I'm a big guy, and those cars were not built for guys my size. And with the 3-speed in it, I had a drag fast 7000 shifter in it, and the shifter was actually under my right leg. So power shifting, all that kind of stuff was out of the question. And the car had no power steering, no power brakes, front 4-wheel drums. There was no suspension in this thing at all. I would go over the Bayside Bridge on the way to the cruise night, and the car would hop off the ground. Well, my fiance rode in the car twice, and she says, "I'm not getting into that death trap again."
Right.
And there were some other expletives that day and that I won't go into. And so it was one of those cars. I always likened it to having like the hottest girlfriend who was just a total psycho behind the scenes. Right. And I pulled that car into a cruise night, and it would set off car alarms, and everyone would crowd around it, and it was so cool, and all the older guys would just go berserk for it and all that stuff. And it was really fun to own in that respect. But the day-to-day owning and driving that car around was a nightmare, because it overheated real easy. As long as you're going down the road, it was okay. But if you stopped at a stoplight, you watch a temperature gauge go up, and it was just so.
Don, I'll send you a picture later of a friend of mine who built a Tempest gasser next to my Pontiac, and we're 2 totally different cars. But we're going to get bit by the clock. We're going to have to get out of here now. So, do you have any contact information, how people can find you or find your work, or anything you'd like to put out to share?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm very, very accessible. Our website, nationalimpala.com. And I also have an author's page on Amazon. So there's several ways to get a hold of me. My email address is all over the place, so it should be not tough to get a hold of me. If you're on Facebook, I try to answer any requests or whatever as quickly as I can.
And I'll tell people, listen, if Don will talk to us on a cold call, he'll talk to you. So
absolutely.
Don, Thank you very much. We'll
it was great. It was great to hang out with you guys.
We'll have you back again in the future. I'll be in touch.
Awesome.
Yes.
For now, we have to get out of here. Chris, what do I tell the people waiting for me in the parking lot?
Don't follow us home unless you got a nice Ram Air 5.
I'll follow them home. All right. For Chris Switzer, Ray Guarino, Don Keefe, Motormouth Radio, signing out till next week. We'll be back with more on 90.3 WHPC. Thank you, gentlemen.
See you, bye.
See ya.